My name is Isabella Carvalho, and I'm 34 years old, 3 weeks before my father's 65th birthday. My mother called to tell me I wasn't invited. Not because the guest list was full, not because Dad wanted a quiet celebration, not because anyone was sick. She said there simply wasn't a place for me. Then she added the sentence that stayed in my head for days. This house is for family, Isabella. And lately, you don't feel like family anymore. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just looked around my living room, at the hardwood floors I had personally chosen, at the framed architectural drawings hanging above the fireplace, at the property deed locked inside the safe beside my desk. Because the one thing my mother didn't know, the one thing nobody in my family knew, was that the house where she planned to celebrate my father's birthday, legally, belonged to me by the following Friday. My phone had 73 missed calls. My uncle threatened to sue me. My cousins called me heartless. My mother screamed that I had destroyed the family. But the only person who stayed completely silent was my father. And when he finally knocked on my front door at 11:30 that night, he was carrying something I hadn't seen in almost 20 years, a faded blue envelope, with my name written on it in his handwriting. Everything changed after that. But to understand why, you need to know how my family spent 15 years convincing everyone that I was the selfish daughter, because the truth was exactly the opposite. I grew up in Curitiba, Brazil. People there often say families stay together no matter what. Mine stayed together too, just not around me. I was the oldest of 2 daughters. My younger sister, Camila, had a gift. She could walk into a room and make everyone feel like she belonged there. She remembered birthdays. She hugged everyone. She always knew the perfect thing to say. People adored her. I wasn't like that. I became an architect. I liked plans, measurements, deadlines. Numbers made sense. Buildings stood where you designed them to stand. People didn't. Whenever something went wrong, somehow, I became the difficult one. If Camilla forgot Mom's birthday, she was busy. If I missed dinner because of a construction project, I was selfish. If Camilla borrowed money, she needed support. If I said no, I didn't care about family. It became a pattern so normal. Nobody questioned it anymore. Not even me. My father noticed it sometimes. He'd quietly tell me, "Don't take it personally, Bella. Your mother just worries about your sister more." I wanted to believe him, until I realized worry and favoritism weren't the same thing. Everything changed 6 years ago. Dad's construction company was collapsing. 3 major clients canceled contracts within 4 months. The bank froze one of his business accounts. Bills piled up. Creditors started calling. One evening, he invited me to dinner. Not at home. At a small restaurant near Barigi Park. He looked older than I remembered. His hands shook while stirring his coffee. I need help. Those 3 words were harder for him than asking for money. He explained everything. If he couldn't refinance certain debts within 30 days, the family home would be seized. The house had been in our family for nearly 30 years. Every birthday, every Christmas, every childhood memory, everything happened there. I asked him one question. "Does Mom know how serious this is?" He nodded. "She does." "And Camilla?" Another pause. I didn't want to burden her. That sentence told me everything. My sister wasn't being protected from stress. She was being protected from responsibility. I asked how much he needed. He slid a folder across the table. I opened it. The number made my stomach tighten. It represented almost everything I'd saved after years of running my architecture firm. I looked at him. "If I do this, I want everything in writing." Dad smiled weakly. "I expected you to say that." Unlike my mother, he never mocked the way I handled business. He respected it. Within 2 weeks, my lawyer prepared every document. There would be no confusion later. No misunderstandings. No verbal promises. The agreement was simple. I would purchase the property outright, pay off every outstanding debt attached to it, and allow my parents to live there, rent-free, for as long as they wished. The only condition, neither the ownership nor the agreement, would be discussed with anyone else, especially Camilla. Dad insisted. "She'll think I'm choosing sides." I remember laughing. "You are." He looked down. "No, I'm trying to stop another war." The transfer was completed quietly. Only 4 people knew. Me, Dad, my lawyer, and the notary handling the paperwork. Life returned to normal. Or at least, it looked normal from the outside. Mom still hosted Sunday lunches. Camilla still arrived late, empty-handed, yet somehow received all the compliments. I kept paying the annual property taxes, the insurance, major repairs, a new roof after a summer storm, a complete plumbing replacement. Every invoice came directly to me. Every payment left my account. Not once did I ask for recognition. I did it because it was still my parents' home. Or at least, that's what I kept telling myself. Then, about a year ago, something shifted. Camilla and her husband separated. She moved back into my parents' house with her teenage son. Almost overnight, my mother started treating the place as if it belonged to Camilla. She remodeled rooms without asking. She planned renovations using money she didn't have. She even joked one afternoon, "One day this house will finally belong to the daughter, who actually appreciates family." Everyone laughed. Except Dad. He looked at me. Just for a second. Long enough to know he remembered whose name was really on the deed. I smiled anyway. Sometimes, my mother's phone call should have ended the story. Instead, it started everything. The morning after she told me I wasn't welcome, my cousin Raphael called. He laughed before saying hello. "So, you finally managed to upset Aunt Helena enough to get yourself banned." I smiled to myself. "Did Mom tell everyone already?" "Oh, everyone knows. She said you were causing problems again?" Problems. That word had followed me my entire life. Not liar, not thief, not irresponsible. Just problem. It's amazing how one harmless-looking word can destroy someone's reputation. People don't ask questions. They simply avoid you. That afternoon I drove to the house. Not to argue, not to confront anyone. I only wanted to see Dad. His birthday was still weeks away. Surely no one would stop me from visiting. When I pulled into the driveway, Camilla's SUV was parked where my father usually parked his truck. She had already made herself comfortable. I knocked. Mom opened the door. The smile disappeared the second she saw me. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see Dad." "He isn't available." Before I could answer, Dad's voice echoed from inside. "Bella?" He walked toward the entrance carrying a watering can. His face lit up. "There you are." He hugged me. Mom stood there, completely silent. Dad quietly asked, "Coffee?" I nodded. Mom didn't. She walked into the kitchen without another word. Dad and I sat in the backyard beneath the old mango tree he planted when I was 10. "I heard about the phone call." He sighed. "I'm sorry. You shouldn't be. You didn't make it." He looked toward the house. "Things have been difficult." I almost laughed. "Difficult?" "Dad, I've been banned from your birthday." He rubbed his forehead. "I know," I argued. That surprised me. "You did?" He nodded. "For 2 hours." "What happened?" His answer broke my heart. "I lost. Lost inside his own house. The house he'd spent decades believing would always protect his family." I looked at him carefully. "Do you want me there?" He didn't even hesitate. "More than anyone." That was enough. Not because I planned to force myself into the party. Because now I understood. This wasn't his decision. It never had been. As I prepared to leave, Camilla walked outside. She smiled that perfect smile everyone loved. "Hi, Bella? You look good." She always started conversations kindly. It made everything cruel she said afterward sound reasonable. "I heard you're upset." "I'm fine." "I hope so. We just don't want any tension during Dad's birthday." I looked directly at her. "What tension?" She shrugged. "You know how people get around you." "No, I don't." She folded her arms. "People feel uncomfortable." I laughed quietly. "Which people?" She couldn't answer. Instead, she changed the subject. "I've been planning this party for months. I don't want anything ruining it." There it was. Not Dad's happiness. Not family, her party. I got into my car without another word. As I drove away, I looked once in the rearview mirror. Dad was still standing by the gate, watching me leave. He looked smaller somehow, like a guest in his own life. 3 days later, something strange happened. The annual property tax statement arrived. At my office, like always. Except this year, someone had already opened it. My assistant, Marina, walked into my office holding the envelope. I thought this was odd. The sender called yesterday, asking why the mailing address hadn't been updated. I frowned. What mailing address? She handed me the note attached to the envelope. Someone had requested ownership correspondence be redirected to my parents' address. I stared at it. The request had been denied automatically, because only the registered owner could authorize it. Registered owner? Me. Someone had tried changing official records. Without my knowledge, for the first time in 6 years, a terrible feeling settled in my stomach. This wasn't just about a birthday anymore. I called my lawyer immediately. Paolo, I need a favor. He answered calmly. What happened? I explained everything. The silence on the other end lasted several seconds. Then he asked one question. Has anyone besides your father ever seen the deed? No. Good. But someone is getting curious. The following Monday, I received another surprise. A large white envelope arrived by certified mail. Inside was an invitation. Richard Carvalho's 65th birthday celebration. Elegant gold lettering. Beautiful design. Venue, my parents' house. Date, Saturday evening. Dress code, formal. I smiled. Maybe Mom had changed her mind. Then I looked closer. At the very bottom, in tiny print, a handwritten note. Please do not attend. No signature. None was needed. I knew exactly who wrote it. I turned the invitation over. There was nothing else. Just one sentence, written by hand, like a final insult. Let's keep this day peaceful. Peaceful. Another word my family loved. Peace. Apparently meant removing me. That evening, I opened my office safe. Inside were several folders, insurance records, tax receipts, renovation invoices, and beneath them all, the original property deed. I placed it carefully on my desk. For 6 years, I'd protected everyone. Their home, their dignity, their secret. Maybe I'd protected the wrong people. I wasn't thinking about revenge. Not yet. I was thinking about something much simpler. The truth. Because sooner or later, every family builds its future on one thing. Love or lies. And mine had been standing on lies for far too long.